Okay, I'm back. Welcome in, Chaos. Welcome. Yeah, I spilled my drink. Oh my god, I spilled my Coke. I was trying to drink it, and then like, I don't know what happened. Okay, it spilled on me, and it spilled on my table, and I had to like clean it up. Anyways, I sent a thing. You sent a thing. You sent it's thing. It's collaborate time. Oh, the Fairy Tail collab. Okay, Natsu looks really good. But Lucy, I'm sorry. They kind of, I think it's the eyebrows. I think it's Lucy's eyebrow. I think her eyebrows. She looks like angry. They look good though. They look so good. Nice ass set, you know. Welcome to Crimson. Welcome. What else, Lucy? Lucy, do you have the big booba? Yeah, huge booba. Anyways, how was everyone's day? Today, we're gonna play Sekiro. I'm a little scared, not gonna lie. Hopefully, I don't die as much, you know? Make sure you get to the Genichiro fight this time. I will. Hopefully. Alright. It's been a week. Okay, it's been a week since I played. You know, give me some time to warm up. Like 2 hours. So thanks for the hydrate. Thank you. My drink for today is cherry cola. Honestly though, I really need to stop drinking like caffeinated drinks. Or like sugary drinks. I need to drink more water. The next Genichiro fight is almost like a dance. All about the timing. I see. All about the timing. Okay. I got my controller plugged in this time. And oh shit! Oop, wrong button. I'm ready. Okay, pause my music. Oh, welcome in, mom. Welcome. Okay. I'm ready. How are you, mom? How's everyone? How was everyone's day? Okay. Load the game. Busy? I see. How's work? Was B2B at work all day? What? Oh, back to back. What was back to back? Oh. Womp chaos. Who you like eat some good food afterwards, you know, drink lots of water. How dare you? I don't know how to comfort people. Like, oh, you have a terrible day at work? Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. That's good job. Womp. Okay, what was? Okay, we were fighting that one guy, right? At the tower. Okay. Do I remember the controls? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Oh. Hit. Okay. Jump. Block. Okay. 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 The one with this big spear? Yeah. Okay. I think I remember this. We went here, right? We went here. How do I crouch? Okay. Mikiri counter? I remember, okay? You just gotta stay still and circle, okay. Stay still, counter. No moving. Stay still and counter. No moving. Oh god. Okay, sneak. Don't feel bad, it took me several times on the same guy. Yeah, I got it. You know, I'm ready, I'm pumped. X? Oh, there. I'm ready, I'm actually ready, guys. Like, when I woke up today, I was like, damn. Oh, fuck! Oh, shit! Whoops! I did not mean to do that! Oh well, fuck. You fight him. Where is he? Come here. It's a warm-up! This is a warm-up, okay? This is a warm-up. Oh, shit! Oh, fuck. Oh. Oh. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was good. This is a warm-up. This is a warm-up. Warm-up, okay? Okay. This was a warm-up, okay? Warm-up. Good warm-up. Okay. Hold on. Crisscrossing. Okay, I've been mentally preparing for this entire day, okay, guys? I wish I was joking, but I was. Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3. Lucky number 1, 2, 3. Okay, over here. Go to the ledge, right? Don't do that! Okay. Go. Wait, is that an item? Oh. Wait, did I go in here? Well, hold on. What if I go in here? Oh, it's locked. Never mind. I see a chest in there, no? You have to get the key? Where's the key? Do you know where the key is at? Okay. This guy. Give me money! Give me money! Ledge hang. And then we go all the way around, right? All the way around to the ledge inside the house. Somewhere in the dream world? Okay. Here. Here. Welcome in, Dolphin Bird! Welcome! How are you? How's your day? Okay. And then we go here. Okay, and then he turns around. Sekiro with hype moments in aura. I'm gonna die so many times. So many times. Now just gotta kill him one time, right? One time. Oh shit. Go back inside the house! Go back inside the house! Go back inside the house! Oh shit! Oh god. Okay. Okay, but he's trapped there. Is he? Can I just like shoot him? Come here! Come this way! No, please. Oh my god, come here! Ah! Oh no, he's out. Oh my god! Wait, hold on. Holy crap! Holy crap, don't hit me! I'm stuck! I'm stuck! I'm stuck! I'm stuck! Okay. It's okay, that's good, that's good. Hold on. Resurrect, resurrect. Okay. Okay. That's okay! That was okay! That was okay! That was good! That was good! The only problem is that he went inside the house. Okay. House, no go. Don't go inside the house. Don't go inside the house! Okay. Don't go inside the house. Go here. Okay. Don't do that! Okay. Go to the wall? Like the Kool-Aid man? Oh yeah! Oh yeah. Not gonna lie, the Kool-Aid man used to scare me. Oh, used to scare me. I don't know why. Like when I was a kid, I think it was like, I don't know, I think it's just like giant mascots, you know? Like they used to scare the heck out of me when I was a kid. Like Barney? Barney was a little bit terrifying. I did not like Barney at all. Okay, here. Then we go here. Sneak. Chef FNAF went? Should I play FNAF? I was thinking of like playing FNAF. Like one time on stream. Okay. Cursor, cursor, cursor. Oh, okay, that was bad. Get up! Get up! Get up! Okay. Holy, okay. 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 That was good. 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 Barney and Kool-Aid Man. What about Big Bird? Big Bird. Big Bird was. I don't know. I think he was just like irrelevant to me. BJ, you guys know BJ? One of Barney's best friend, BJ. Oh my god. When he goes for the sweet, jump over it. Okay, jump over the sweet. Okay, Elmo, Kermit. Okay, I never really watched the Muppets, but like Sesame Street, I hated Sesame Street. I don't know why. I just hated like. I don't know. I didn't like Elmo. It gives me the creeps. The green dinosaur, yeah, yeah, the green dinosaur. Okay. This is the one, guys. Oh, damn, a dog. This is the one. This is the one. He saw me. Come here. Come here. Is it possible to like push him off the edge? No, please. Uh-huh. I go here. The sweep? The sweep? Like the spinning sweep? Okay. Oh. I go. No! Unfair! 2v1! 2v1, unfair! I can't see, he's throwing dirt everywhere! Oh my god! What the hell? Oh, welcome in, Graham! Welcome! How are you? How are you? How was your day? Okay. Okay. That was good. That was good. Right, guys? That was good. That was good. 5, 6. Unseen aid. Not gonna lie, this is why I should still kill everyone first. Yep, that's what I'm learning. you do that? Okay. It's okay, I don't wanna bother fighting these guys. Okay. This guy. Okay, ledge hang. Hopefully he doesn't see me again. Okay, here. Here. Welcome in, Crunchy. Welcome, welcome. I'm waiting for my 1.7k after I win this prediction. Are any of you guys rooting for me, huh? Okay, this is the one. Focus now. Focus, focus. Hit him, hit him! Oh, fuck. Oh my god! Oh my god! No, that's fine, that's fine. Back up, back up! Okay. Reset, reset, reset. Where do I go? Gosh. Where do I go? Okay. 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 It's okay. Please don't hit me. Oh. 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 Okay. Oh my god. Okay. Oh my god! His spear is so long! Oh god. The distance is crazy. Okay, okay. You know what? That fall? That fall made me messed up, okay? I blame it on the fall, okay? I blame it on the fall. Okay, we try again, we try again. No, I'm not leaving this with you until I kill that guy. Follow you when you jumped up? Okay, I didn't think I was gonna jump that far, okay? Alright, alright. Okay, stay away from the edge. Stay away from the edge. Rule number 1, stay away from the edge. Okay, we fight in the middle. I'm gonna try to like carousel around him, you know? Like just try to hit him from behind, if I can. So no edging? No edging! No edging! I mean, at this point, I might as well be like an edgelord, right? Ah! Fuck! Get up! close. Oh! 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 I'm out of heals. Oh, okay. Thank you for the bug. Thank you. Okay, okay, okay. That was good. That was good. That was good. That was good. Oh my god. This game is gonna be like like 400 deaths. I'm not even kidding. 400, 500. Hey. Okay. Focus, guys. You know what? I'm just gonna shut up. No commentary, pure gameplay. Okay, I'm locking in. I'm locking in. Anyways, have any of you guys played Alan Wake? Alan Wake is like one of the games I really want to play on stream. You say lock in, not hyperventilate. Hey, it's how it works, okay? Ay. Okay. Please don't hit me. Oh god. Okay. Ah, I can.
Sticks is just a feeble story to
Oh fuck.
children.
Oops. Can I go back up? Can I get back up? Can I get back up? Where am I? Where is he? Oh, okay. I start here. No, 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 no. Okay, I jumped. How did that hit me? Oh god. Oh god, wait. I can't with this game. I can't. that was a failed attempt, okay? Oh my god, did you see how unhinged Janie is? She doesn't seem as unhinged as you, Mom. I played a little bit of the first Alan Wake game. Really? I have the first one. I was thinking of playing the first one because I really want to play the second one. I heard the second one's really good. That's why. Okay. Yeah, but still, whoa. Oh, I missed that. Oh. Yeah, Janie seems so normal. Very normal. Do you want to try the other boss since you beat the mini version of that one before? No, 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 no. We're not leaving until I beat this guy. Okay, we're not leaving until I beat this guy. Normal castling June is normal? I mean, who doesn't castle June? Here? Okay. Oh, I jumped! I jumped! What do you mean? Get away from me. Oh my god. Oh my god, okay. Wrong sweep to jump over it? Wrong sweep? That was the wrong sweep? Oh. No, 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 no. Okay. Okay, sweet the leg. You got a problem with that? What? No, Sensei. Where's that from? Is that a reference to something? Okay, you shut up. You shut up. Karate Kid? Oh, Karate Kid! God, it's been so long since I've seen a movie. Wait, the first one or the Jaden Smith one? Cause guys, my generation, I've only seen like the Jaden Smith one. Okay. There's three? Wait, there's two before the Jaden Smith one? You're a disgrace for not seeing all of them? Okay, buddy. I said this new one that came out. Oh, it's a new one that came out recently. The Karate Kid? Wait, I think I've seen the trailer of it. It was like when the first two Karate Kid showed up, right? They returned. Oh. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh fuck. Oh! Oh god. Okay, this guy. Okay. Not fair. Don't go up, Shin. Don't go up too far up. Okay, Shin. Stay back. Closer to the house, but don't go inside the house. Stay away from the edge. Okay, stay away from the edge. Don't go up. Don't go inside the house. Okay. Got it. I remember. Oh my god. Don't go down. Don't go. Okay. I got it. I'm making a mental note. Okay. Just bait. Hide. What? Just bait high to the side with the tree? Oh. No, you don't see nothing. Turn around. Okay. Oh, we got messed up. Oh, we got messed up. Okay, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. He doesn't know. 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 It's okay. Don't date until you're dirty. No hand holding till you're 35. Him. Okay, just bait him to the side. There's a tree. Okay. I can't wait for my 1.7k more. You guys are about to get rich. Wait, if you bet on one side, but then there's nobody betting on the other side, do you still get points? Or do you just get the points you betted? You just get your points back? Okay. I want that guy to leave! You can see that guy right there? He's like throwing rocks at me. Bro, go away! Go away! I'm not here! I'm not here! Oh my god. I don't want to fight you. Go away. Walk away. He's not leaving. Okay, he saw me there. Okay, come inside. Come inside. I'll fight you inside. Hold on. Let me get rid of him first. Oh! Oh my god. Okay, that was bad. I blame that guy! I blame that guy! I blame that guy! Oh god. Oh, please. I blame that guy! That guy just got ruined everything. It's okay. Come here. Ow! Oh, where am I? Oh god! Get up! Get up! Get up! Okay, it was that guy's fault. Okay, it was that guy's fault. Okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay. It's fine, guys. You guys don't have to cry, okay? You know? Okay, okay. Alright. got this. I got this. Don't you say nothing! Okay. This is the one. You have to believe. Shen luck. Shen's skill is real. Every time she leaves for a week and comes back, she panics more. No. I'm chill this time, guys. I'm chill. I swear. I'm tamed. I'm chill and I'm tamed. Okay. This. Okay. Hang on the ledge. You better not see me. Okay, like this. This. Okay. Okay. Deep breath, Shen. You only gotta kill him one time. One time. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god! Ah! Why are you counting me so much? I'm scared. Ah! I'm scared. Oh fuck! I keep falling! Oh my fuck! Please, please. Oh shit, please. What the fuck? What the hell? Okay. I need to stop jumping. Jumping up! I swear to god! Okay. No more jumping. No more jumping. No more jumping, Shen! Jumping is forbidden. Okay. 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 And that slide with a tree is really liking a tree? Huh? What do you mean? Huh? What do you mean, Chaos? Yeah, he bonked me. He bonked me. You fought him on the stairs? Yeah, I fought him on the stairs. Okay, is fighting him like by the tree area better than like on the stairs? Is it better? Cause it's flat. Oh fuck. He saw me, right? It's okay. You know, we're just gonna ignore him. Then probably... Okay. They saw me on. Should I just... Okay, if I'm like quiet, they're just like... Pretend I'm not here, right? They just pretend they didn't see me, right? Okay, I go here. Is this shit we're talking about, Buns? your points would be mine. Oh god, 8 more deaths. Okay. This is the one. Oh fuck, I messed up there. I messed up! I messed up! Okay, I messed I messed up there! Oh. Fuck, oh shit. How do I get up? Oh my god! Stop! Oh my god, he's right there! Ah! What the hell? Let's go over here, let's go over here. Oh god. Okay. Oh my god. Okay. You know what? It's okay. It's a-okay. It's a-okay. Okay. It's okay, Shin. It's okay. You're doing okay. You're doing fine. No need to panic, right? This. Oh! Welcome in, June! Welcome, welcome! How are you, June? How was your day? Okay, quiet. I failed my final for one of my classes. Did you really? June! Oh. NT? I mean, you know, good try though. Are you crying? I hope you don't cry. You know? I mean, school is eh. You know, that's why you become a art student. Because there's no way you could fail arts. Point gonna pass is like a bee? Ah, I see.
Yeah, for now.
He saw me? What the hell?
Let's do that.
Okay. Hydrate? No. Don't bro, I just got up. Where is he? Okay.
Thank you for the hydrate.
Thank you for the hydrate.
guys. Thank you for the hydrate. Okay, so key to my water bottle. Alright. I thank you for the hydrate. Okay, chill.
Oh!
Yo, chill.
Stop! Stop! I don't want to hear that right now.
Yo, chill.
Stop. God. Jesus Christ! Oh God. You know, okay. I gotta play Argo. Play Argo. Aggressive. No more trying to dodge, Shannon. No more trying to dodge. Okay. I played this on my stream earlier too. Yeah, no, I was there. Okay, I was there. Thank you for the hydrate. Are you using the counter? Barely. I'm trying to, okay? But then like muscle memory, guys. I keep trying to like move in the direction, you know? Okay. It's okay. Honestly, I'm surprised I even graduated. You guys wanna know what's crazy? I'm like one of the dumbest person in my whole family, alright? I'm like one of the dumbest. If not, I'm probably like the second dumbest person in my family. But then for some reason I was like an honor student, you know. I graduated like university the earliest amongst like everybody else in my family. Which is like insane, you know. I'm like, why me? And like I failed classes too. I don't even know how I even graduated, to be honest. I don't even showed up for school. Oh. Okay. Brute force it. Okay, brute. You saw that? He turned around. Okay, that was bad. That was bad. That was bad. That was really bad. Don't do it bad. Oh, okay. Okay. Get up, get up, get up, Shen. Get up, get up, get up. Okay, what the fuck? We go over here, we go over here. Over here, come here. Over here. Over here! I need you to drop down. Okay, stop hitting me. Oh my god, my button's not working or what? Okay. I swear to God, maybe I just need a new controller. Maybe I just need a new controller. You know, it's totally not me. You know, maybe I just need a new controller. But this controller is pretty old. You know, it's like I don't know, like 4-year-old now. Were you still taking math classes at the end, or was it more like electives? Electives and history. I only took one math class my entire like college, my entire university experience. Yeah, and that was like in my freshman year. Oh. You gotta stop trying to dodge, buddy. I know. I know, I'm trying to. You know, I keep telling myself I gotta play Argo, but then like... Guys, I'm a coward. I'm a coward. Oh my god. Ah! Okay, no fair, no fair, no fair. Restart! Restart! Come here, buddy. So welcome in, Nano. How are you? How was your day? You know what? I'm just gonna. Here, let's just go over here. Wipe the sweat off the controller first. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. But that's grip. Okay. Okay, okay, okay. They don't know, they're investigating. See? Okay, I'm gonna hit him a few times, okay? And then we're gonna run to the tree area, okay? To the tree area. That's the strat here. Stop! Buddy! Okay, I did not mean to go forward, I'm sorry! Okay. I can't. Okay, I keep running up! I keep running up! Okay. Okay, okay. Counter. Don't press anything, Shen. Don't move! Don't move! Okay. Don't move. No moving. You are forbidden to move. Forbidden. This is the one! This is the one! I swear, God. I swear! I swear, I swear! I swear, you guys are gonna see some actually good gameplay, okay? Not bad gameplay like this. I swear I'm good. Okay. We're gonna go for this guy. Okay, go for this guy. Here. 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 Quiet like a mouse. Quiet like a mouse. Okay, hit, run, hit, run. Hit, hit, run. Hit, hit, run. Hit! Hit! Run! 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 Okay, come over here. Come over here, you. Over here, you. Okay, that was my bad. Okay, that was on me. That was on me. That was on me. Okay. Oh my God. Okay, that was on me. Actually. Okay. Stop. Okay, okay. Okay. That was a warm-up, guys. Let's just pretend the first hour stream did not matter, you know? Welcome in, everyone! Today I'll be playing on Sekiro. Thank you for the pipe. Oh shit, that's right. She isn't afraid of him. She can totally defeat her in an epic way. Totally not saying this because she's gonna charge in head on and get defeated really quick. So oh shit! Wait, what the hell? You distracted me. Wait. No, you be quiet. Okay. Okay. Lucky number 137. Lucky number 7. Lucky number 7. Okay. Remember, this is a game about ninjas and sword fighting? Not Dark Souls. Okay. You're right. You're right. I just gotta be Argo. Aggressive. No fear. No fear. No fear. No fear. Fear does not exist when I'm around. Haha. Haha. I sound so unsure, but it's okay. Got this. Okay. He's right there. Oh! Stop! Oh my god, I tossed that. Did I not? Don't hit me! Don't hit me! Okay, get out the stairs! Shen, get out the stairs. Oh, okay. Okay, what the fuck? Okay, what the hell? No, good trial run. Good trial run. Trial run. Okay. Two more is yours. Two more death. Okay, guys. Okay. No, he saw me. You know, I'm locking in just so Crunchy doesn't get his point. Watch. You know? Pure evil. No? Okay. Oh. Oh my god. Oh my god, what the hell? Okay. That's okay. That's okay, that's okay. That's okay, man! What the hell? Okay, nice. Okay. Okay. I'm getting the hang of it, okay? I'm getting the hang of it. Just gotta focus, you know? Focus, focus. I'm gonna pretend you guys aren't here, you know? Alright. Don't you do anything! Oh my god. Please. Be money though. I'm going broke.
This is your moment. Now is your time. So prove yourself and
Thank you for the blame. Oh yeah, have you guys ever had like that talk where like you discuss what your WWE entrance song would be? Okay. I can see you tend to stop and wait after doing a mimicry. Like you're trying to collect yourself. It's understandable, but it's messing you up. Is it? Okay. I'm scared. I know, like, whenever I counter him, right? He, like, attacks first. So I'm, like, waiting to see if he's gonna attack me or not. That's why. Because sometimes he does, sometimes he don't, and I'm, like, unsure. Please give tips after this death. Okay, this is the one. This is the one. This is the one. Oh god. Okay, never mind. Never mind, never mind, never mind. We go over here. Oh god! Oh god! Sorry, I went up. Oh my god, I keep going up! I keep walking up. It's okay, guys. Dumb ways to die. Oh my god. Oh, did you have a big country? Yeah, they're doing like the predictions in chats. Wow, 140 these nuts. Okay. Kill this guy. And then we're gonna kill this guy. Please, you don't see me. You did not see me. Don't investigate. No, please. Oh my god. Throwing throwing rocks at me, you see? Okay. Now we'll wait till the yellow disappears. Thank you for the redeem. Thank you. Thank you for the hydrates. Shed just for losing me my points. I'm sorry. You're supporting the wrong person. You have free will. You have free will. Okay. Oh, ledge. Here. Free will doesn't get him his points back. Well, you know, deal with the consequences. Oh. Okay. Okay. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Okay. 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 You're good. You're good, Shin. You're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. Okay, that was bad. That was bad. Yeah, that was bad. Oh god. Oh god.
An enemy has been slain.
Okay. That was good! That was good, right? That was good! You know, I'm getting the hang of my counter. That was good! That was good. That was good! That was good! That was good! Good job, Shen. I'm proud of you. I'm my number one supporter. Okay. You need to parry the heavy attack? Yeah, okay. Like another 20 seconds you would have won? Okay. Okay, okay. Got it, okay. Got it, got it. If you can parry, you can get a free hit for him. Can he get stunned? Okay, okay, okay. Got it, got it. Okay. It's like tripping at the finish line. That would be me actually. Okay. Go here. Okay, here. Okay. Damn. Why do I have to be the main character? What is up? Okay. Okay.
Whoa.
Okay. The edge.
Never knew slapping jelly was so much fun.
The edge my worst enemy. So. Oh. Oh. Okay. Okay. This is good. This is good. This is good. See, guys, I told you. I just need like a 1 hour warm up. You know? A 1 hour warm up. Ignore me. I don't exist. Okay, we go here. Kill this guy. We also kill this guy. Okay. Okay. Hold on, let me drink something. Okay. I'm ready. I'm ready. See, that wasn't so bad, Shin. Come on. Lucky number 42. Lucky number 42. All right. I'm about to die. Oh my god, she's a gamer. I'm a gamer. I'm a gamer. Oh my god, my first win after an hour and a half. How do I get back? How do I get back? Did I have to travel all the way over there? The well is over there. Oh wait. Can I check here first? I checked here already, right? Did I? Okay. Only took an hour and a half? Yep, an hour and a half. You know, worth. Okay. I guess I just jump back. She's a kind human being too. She let me have your 1.7 points. Then defeated. Oh, whoops, my bad. Should have made the number higher, guys. How do I get up there? I don't want to run through them. Should I just run through them? Is it for me to grab here? No? Okay, I think I might have to like run through them. Yeah, I don't want to alert them. Oh wait, I could go here. Okay. Oh. No, donkey, no. No. Oh fuck. No, whoops. I meant to go here. Okay. Stop! Don't hit me, dog! Run, shit, run! Run, shit, run! Okay. Go reset! They're blocking my way! Can I go around? Ooh. Oh wait, I could go there, right? Oh wait. There's items right there. Oh wait, there's a guy right there. Hold on. Why not just use the idol? Wait, now I kind of want to grab that though. Okay, you know what? Let's just use the idol. Let's commune idol. Okay. Okay, where do I go now, guys? Back here. Okay. Scared. Should I continue or should I fight the other guy? Mom wanted me to fight. You can fight the butterfly lady or progress the game. One of the objectives is to scale the Ashina castle, I think. Okay. We're supposed to go up here, right? Did I talk to this already? Ishin? Do I want to fight Ishin? Oh, Genichiro? Should I? Chaos was talking about how he wanted me to fight him. This stream. Should I fight him? He's like, past this door, right?
分かっておるな。来たるべきは芦名存亡の戦。一心様。
He's at the top? The top? Oh! He saw me. Please. Am I gonna die here? Kill you first. You're the most annoying one. Oh my god. I'm not ready to kill you yet. Oh god. Leave me alone, leave me. Okay. Kuranosuke. General Kuranosuke. Okay, come here, come here. This guy's easier, right? Oh. Oof, oof. It's okay, it's okay. It's fine, it's fine. Oh! Oh! Oops. Okay. Oh my god. Hold on. I was not prepared for that. The general in the pit. Yeah, I'm realizing it. Okay. So welcome, you know who ID. Welcome. How are you? How's your day? 143. Okay, we're gonna fight this mini boss. What? Okay, right now I'm playing some Sekiro. Is there a faster way to like... Is there a way for me to like sneak attack him? What the hell? What's on me? Oh. Those guys saw me. Whoops.
Minanoshu, 分かっておるな。来たるべきは芦名存亡の戦。一心様。
Hold on, what's over here? No! Oh yeah! That could make it! Is there a way to jump back? Hey, hey. Oh god, wrong one. Can I make it there? Can I make that jump? Yeah, just get the mobs around here first. They're all ranged. Yeah. Also, might be able to get an aerial attack on him for a free death blow. Oh! Okay, how do I... Do I need to be higher? Or can I do it from here? I don't know if I could get up to this roof. Though. Can I? What if I go here? Oh. Oops. Ah, this side, okay. Oh god! Ah, did it again! Fuck! They're beating my ass right now, holy crap. You guys are so annoying! Oh god, I'm getting here left and right. Holy crap. Don't hit me! Fuck! Jesus Christ! Okay. Okay. Oh. Oh, okay. Can you get the two ranged guys with 2 shurikens each? They could just die like that? I feel like my shurikens doesn't do that much damage, no? Forty-four. Okay. This side of the roof. What? I can't climb any up. No, I have to go the other way. How do I get on this side without being noticed? Oh. Go up, Wolf, please.
一心様、そしてアシナの民のために命を捨てて参ろうぞ。我らこそアシ
Okay. Okay, this is the one. This is the one. No, you don't see me.
皆の衆、分かっておるな。来たるべきはアシナ存亡の戦。一心様、そしてアシナの民のために命を捨てて参ろうぞ。
Okay.
我らこそアシナ。
Now we're gonna try this thing strat, right? No, wrong guy! Wrong guy! No way! Not the right guy! That was a waste. That was literally such a waste. Okay. We do this the traditional way. Oh, never mind. Oh. Okay. Make sure you log onto it. I thought I was. I was looking right at him with my little focus lock thingy. I think it switched. Oh, it's okay. Trial and error. 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 Also, Shay, before you fight, go to the bottom of the stairs. They're on. Bottom of the stairs? Right here?
皆の衆
This?
分かっておるな。来たるべきは
Oh.
芦名存亡の戦。
Okay. Go out the gate? Out the gate? This gate? Can I kill you? This statue there? Oh! Oh, 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 oh. Oh. Whoops. I didn't see this. Okay. Whoops! Thank you, thank you.
皆の衆分かっておるな。来たるべきは
Ah! Fucking
芦
jump
名
up!
存亡の戦。一心様、そして芦名の民のために命を捨てて参ろうぞ。我らこそ芦名、不当の芦名衆よ。おう。
Ooh! Oh god. Be quiet! Okay, you guys are so annoying. Okay, we found this ground right here. Oh god. NT.
皆の衆、分かっておるな。来るべきは芦名存亡の戦。一神様、そして芦名の民のために命を捨て。
Hush! Oh my god. Stop. Okay. I hate them. They're so annoying. Bro. Look at that other guy. Okay. Oh, okay, buddy. Okay. That was messed up. I messed up there. Okay, you know. Okay. That's that was a warm up. That was a warm up. If it's a stream attack, you can jump. You can jump over it and jump under his. Does a lot of posture damage. Okay. Sweep, jump, sweep, jump. Sweep, always jump. Okay. Sweep, always jump. Always jump or
皆の
sweep.
衆、分かっておるな。来るべきは
Always
芦
jump
名
or
存
sweep.
亡の戦。一
Okay,
神
thank you for the hydrates.
そして
Thank
芦名の民
you.
のために命を捨てて参ろうぞ。我らこそ芦名、不当の芦名衆よ。おう。
Kill this guy first. Oh god. Stop! Don't shoot me! Whoa! Stop! Don't hit. Okay. Okay. Recover. Come here. We fight down here. Oh god. Oh god. Okay. Oh. What the hell? Oh my god, buddy. Come here. No, come back over here. What the hell? NT. 60. Oh, 47.
皆の衆分かっておるな。来たるべきは
Okay, we
アシ
try one
ナ
more
存
time.
亡の戦。
This is the one!
一心様そしてアシナの民のために
Oh god. Okay. Come here. I need you to come over here. Come over here, please. Okay. Come on, come on. You be here first. Oh god. Oh god! It's fine, it's fine. Okay. Argo, 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 Argo. Oh god! Easy kill, easy kill! Oh god! Literally, I always fail like right at the end. Oh, welcome in, Vento. Welcome, welcome. How are you? How's your day? How goes the games? The game goes really good. Really good, really good. We're at that number 148. That was okay. That was a close one. That was a close one. Okay. She's on the future 160 death. It's not gonna be 160, I swear. This guy is a lot easier than the last guy I fought.
皆の衆
Okay.
分かっておるな。来たるべきはアシナ存亡の戦。
I think I'm just getting like too
そ
greedy
して
a
ア
little
シナ
bit
の民のために
at the end.
命を捨ててまい
I'm letting my greed get to me. Oh. Oh my god, that guy stopped me! Oh. Please, I'm not here for you. Please, I'm not trying to hit you yet! Okay, he's do it for me? Okay, jump over the sweep, jump over the sweep. I keep forgetting it. I totally forgot. I totally forgot. Oh. Oh. Come here! Why won't he attack me first? Oh. Jump over, jump over. Oh fuck, okay. Please, please. I have 1 health. Can you just spare me? Oh god, I'm scared. Okay. You know, it's the range, guys. It's the 4 guys next to him that's like throwing me off. I hate them. I hate them so much. I'm going on.
皆の衆
Oh,
分かっておるな。来るべきは芦名存亡の戦。
149. 149.
一心様、そして芦名の民のために命を捨てて参ろうぞ。
It's like a double jump, by the way. So jump over the sweep and jump over again on his head. Okay, double jump. Okay. Okay.
芦名のために。
Sweep, jump, jump, hit. Okay. Okay, okay. Let me kill this guy first. Oh! Oh my god! Don't shoot me! Don't hit me! Don't hit me! Don't hit me! Don't hit me! God. Okay. Come here, come here. Oh my god! God, I got penetrated. Oh my god. Flat ground. Truce, come here. Ooh. Okay. 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 He wouldn't hit me. I didn't go. Okay. Okay, now I'm playing too defensive. Okay. I like wait for like 10 seconds, and those 10 seconds you sounded like you were in a bank robbery. This is the one. This is the one.
皆の衆、分かっておるな。
あ、
来るべきは芦名存亡の戦。一心様、
Okay, Shen.
そして
Shut up.
芦名の民のために
Shut up. Focus.
命を捨てて参ろう
Double
ぞ。
jump. Sweep. Sweep. Double jump.
不当な
Parry. Dodge. We're gonna kill this guy first. Oh! Oh my god! Hitting so much there! Don't hit me! You're not my target right now! Oh god, I'm getting back shots, no fair. Don't hit me! So... Okay. Oh god. Okay. God, you dawdle, they just recovered the pulse and it takes longer. Most of the boss fight really lasts less than a minute. Okay. Okay. Shit, you gotta play aggressive. Don't let them breathe. Don't let them recover. Do not let them recover. Okay. My hands are so sweaty, guys.
皆の衆分かっておるな。来るべきはアシナ存亡の戦。一神様、そしてアシナの民のために命を捨てて参ろうぞ。
Oh my god! Stop! Please! Please, this is so annoying! Can I hit him, please? Okay. The range character is so bad. I hate them so much. Okay. Okay, come on. Should I don't wait for them to attack? Okay. Okay. Argo. I hear face. Okay. Okay. I got it.
皆の衆分かっておるな。来るべきはアシナ存亡の戦。一神様、そしてアシナの民のために命を捨てて参ろうぞ。我らこそアシナ。布団
Kill this guy first. Oh my god. Oh. Oh my god, get up! Oh my god! The shots! I swear, the shots! Oh my god. Smack it once! Oh my god, missed! Bro, stop it! Oh god! Ah! The fuck! Jesus Christ! That wasn't so bad. That wasn't so bad, you know? Not so bad. Wow, easy peasy. What did I get here? Divine grass. Okay. What if I open this? Hold on, let me look around here. Oh yeah, item here. I just go in. Does not open from this side? Okay. No, since I killed that guy already. we're gonna go rest. Let's rest. Let's rest. Okay. I'm guessing I just gotta like look around here, right? What the fuck, bro? You don't want to throw stuff at me? Okay. I know there's enemies here. Okay. Who's shooting at me? Oh. Oh my god. Okay. No, climb up via roof. Climb up the roof. Ow! Sorry, those. Sorry, make sure. How do I go up the roof? This one? Okay, oh, item? Pellet. Pellet. Oh, another item. Oh no, wait, that's not another item. Oh! Fuck, it's gonna kill me! Birdman! What the hell? Where is he? Oh. Oh my god, 2v1! I don't do good 2v1s. They're flipping all over the place! What the hell? What the heck? What the hell? Range and the freaking like a spinning attack? That's crazy. Okay, just keep hitting him on the edge. On the edge, okay. We went here, right? This way? This way. This way. Oh my god! Okay. Who's the other guy? Oh my god! That does so much damage! Oh. What the hell is that? Oh yeah, I forgot the timer. Ah! What, this one has fire? Oh my god. What the hell? Come here so I can hit you! 2, 3, 4. Wait, is stream lagging for you guys? Is it buffering? My stream gonna die right now? Please! Yeah, my bitrate is really low right now. Hopefully my stream don't. It doesn't die on me. Please. Okay, okay. Oh. Okay, as long as my stream is going on, I think you just need to like refresh you guys if my stream is like buffering. Seems okay now? Okay. Oh! Ah! What the hell? Hold on, what the heck? Guys! Is my controller broken? My right button is not working! What the heck? Why is my right button not working? Did I break it? With the amount of time I've been smashing it? Wait, it's not working! Okay, left. Okay. No, did I break my controller? I think I broke my controller, guys. Okay, hold on, I'm re-plugging it back in. Okay. What? It's not working! Guys, it's not working! I broke my controller! It's not working. Hold on. Wait. Where's my... Okay. Okay. I'm pressing the right, it's not working! I broke it! I broke my controller! Look! Oh wait! Oh shit! That was working! Wait! Okay. That was working, okay. I smashed it against the desk. Alright. There you go. God damn, I thought I was gonna have to buy a new controller. Okay, there we go. Damn. Can't afford a new controller right now, guys. Oh, did I go the wrong way? There you go. Oh, I fell down. How do I get up? Here. Go to the input thing and see if it's unmapped. It should be fine, I think. Okay, if it dies again, if it breaks again, I try my best to fix it. 55. Wait, no, I didn't even die yet. What the hell? It's still 54. I didn't die yet. Okay. Still might have to control it these days, or well, yeah. Aren't they like really like? I mean, that's how you make money, right? You make them really cheap, and then, I mean, you build them really cheap, but then you sell them really expensive. You know? Oh my god! Where am I getting hit from? 1.5. This is 155. Oh wait, no, I'm still alive. I'm still alive. Oh, there we go. Another one's not gonna show up, right? Look, I probably do need a new controller. I had this one for like 4 years. Oh. Oh. Oh, please, please. Oh. Oh, why there's so many of them? Oh god. I don't want any more heals. Ah! Please. Oh shit, there's two of them here. Oh god. Okay. Oh wait, this is 56. Oh, 55. 55? 55. Alright. NT, thank you, thank you! Thank you, thank you. God, these guys are so annoying! I would rather fight that one mini boss again than fight these guys and a swarm of them. Can I ignore them? Is there a way for me to go the opposite way and start fighting them? Can I go there? I don't think I can. No? Okay, I think I'm gonna have to go here. Actually. Oh my god! Okay. Where's the big guy? Big guy, come here. Oh! What the fuck? Okay. Oh my god, it's not worth it to cheap out when making controller because this warranty, so they have to spend money replacing them. But some of these companies had to relearn that lesson. Oh. Wait, do people actually like, you know how like, people have like those like insurance for like their, you know, warranty insurance stuff? You guys actually do that? Cause I don't. They're like, oh, you have a 5-year warranty. Cause I don't. I just buy it with no like warranty or anything. So if I have to replace it, I just buy a new one. That's how I've always done it. Kill this guy first. Kill this guy first! Kill this guy first! Okay. Wait, they don't know I'm here. Oh, get up! Oh. Okay. Okay, now where do I go? Up there? Oh wait, there's an item right here. Item. Ceramic shard. They keep giving me a ceramic shard. Like I don't want. Oh! Whoa! What the heck? Okay. Jesus Christ. That's what they're hoping for, but you gotta stop giving them money. I see. So I'm a victim. Jesus. Hello, Graham. welcome. Was it attack controllers do break after the warranty is over? Ah. Okay. Over here. Oh fuck. F. So welcome, Miss Finicky! I just got here just in time to see Shen turn into a black scorch mark on the floor. Yo, I mean, typical Shen stream, right? How are you? How's your day? First time? Yeah, this is my first time. My first time playing. Well, basically like oh. Hold on. Wait, BRB guys. BRB! Okay, I'm back. Sorry, somebody came inside my room. Okay, yeah, this is my first time playing like a Souls game. A Souls-like game. And my first time playing in Sekiro. So it's been a good journey, you know? Okay, I have to go. How do I get out? Here? Okay. Get burned! Stop! Oh my god! Oh my god, 3v1? What the hell? 3v1? Okay. Oh my god. Oh my god! And you choose Sekiro? Damn. Okay. I did not pick Sekiro, okay? This is the people in my chat, okay? The people in my chat, they were all like, Shen, you gotta play Sekiro, when are you gonna play Sekiro? You know, and it was like that for like a whole year. They've been begging me for a whole year. So, you know, I'm finally playing Sekiro. It's supposed to work? Oh, how it's supposed to work? Is you either do the warranty or just buy an alternative so they're forced to fix their shit and you win back over as a customer. Oh! I see. I mean, that's why they have a lot of like off-brand, right? But like off-brand like controllers, they don't work as good, no? Oh my god, bro. Oh my god, bro. Oh my god, bro. These guys are so annoying. them? Where is he? Where does he come from? This guy that like jumped me. Is he like, I have no idea where he comes from. Oh my god, it's called running is key. The best strategy. Should I just make him run for it? Make him run for it? Oh, what the hell? Wait, he has like auto aim or something? Okay, how do I get up? How do I get up? How do I get up? Here? Oh my god! Did they come here? I should have just ran! Oh my god, I should have just ran. I should have just ran. Wait, it was my 56th death. Okay, what is this? Gourd seed. Yo, they're flying at you like missiles. Yeah, right. So I'm like, bro, how do I dodge that? He always hit me either way. Okay, let's do twice this case. Okay. He's on the kite? Oh, he's on the kite! Ah. Oh, are you... You're not my friend? I thought you were friendly! Holy crap! Oh. Oh! Look, you don't see exploding, dude. Okay. I thought he was friendly. I thought that guy was nice. 57, 57. Okay, trust no one. Trust no one. Can I sneak kill him? Is this the whole room or is this a separate room? Okay. What is that? Divine confetti. Divine confetti. Anything else? Secret door? Secret tunnel. For the thrust. Okay. Nikuri counter for the thrust. Everything wants to kill you, shit. We told you this, but like there was another guy who was like dressed like that, and he was like really nice, you know. He was friendly. Okay, that guy walks right there. They walk in a circle. Oh no, wait. What is that? The lady in the robe? Okay, that guy walks in a circle. There's a person right there. That guy goes inside that room. Oh, wait. He turns around. Wait, where did the other guy go? Okay, there's no other entrance here. Okay, what if I go here? Kill this guy. Don't turn around, don't turn around. Don't turn around, don't turn around. Okay, pellets. Okay, I could go up there. Are you friendly? Is that guy friendly? Can I kill him? Oh shit! There's more than one! Oh fuck. Oh fuck. They have brains. Oh fuck! I forgot! I forgot! Oh god. Oh god, wait. Okay. I thought there was only one guy there. You know, good trial run. Okay, there's one guy here. There's 3 guys there. Oh fuck! Shit! No! Restart! Restart. Okay. He's gonna walk around here. Go here. Okay. That's the middle portion. Jump down. Jump down. Jump down. Like in that pit right there. It's a surprise. No, you're gonna. It's the boss battle, right? That's what I'm assuming. That's the boss battle, right? You're gonna tell me jump down. I'm gonna have to fight this giant boss right away. Yeah, trust. I don't trust you. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh! What? Giant? Yeah, giant. Okay. There's 3 guys there. There's that guy. What if I kill that guy? Can I kill that guy? Oh shit! Holy crap! Oh. Okay. What's here? Eel liver. Miraculous drug capable of banishing lightning offered at the Ashina clan altar. Okay. Sabimaru? Oh! Prosthetic tool! Okay. Forge by the... Should I do this? See, trust? Mom. Buns, I don't trust anything you say. I don't trust anything you say, okay? Oh, I can open this now. Okay. The bridge. Bitch? Yeah. Who's at this door? Oh, I can open this door. Is this statue ahead with a few mobs? Over here? Oh, there's the door! The door to fighting this freaking dude. Never mind. Oh, I can't go up here? How do I jump back up? What? do I get up? I'm too far? Can I go here? No, I can't. Can we go here then? Oh. Okay. Two guys on the bridge. Oh, there's a guy with a spear? Oh, I see it! I see a statue. Okay. You guys think I could get a sneak attack on him? No, look the other way. Look the other way, look the other way, look the other way. No. Oh shit! I'm fine. Oh god. Okay. Heavy coin purse. Yeah, I just killed your boss. You wanna fight me? Oh god, you're strong. Alright. Give me loot! Give me loot! Oh! Bro, look at his body! His body's hanging on the wall! It's crazy. Okay, I rest here. Okay. Follow the road. Oh, it's an item right there. Oh. Gotchas sugar. Suppress the sound, okay. Oh. Dude was a canyon? The heck? How am I supposed to? I'm not here.
お主ラッパ者
Oh. Oh god! What the hell? He knocked me off! Stop! Where is he? Where is he? No, no, no! Look down on him! Oh god! I didn't get to hear what they say. Rep is okay. Ooh. Fistful of ash, like coin purse, sugar. Oh my god! You assist? How do I go there? Oh my god! Ah! Oh god. Oh no, I didn't mean to fall down, I didn't mean to fall down! 159, 159. Okay. Now I know. Be a guy with a cannon right there. Oh wait, I can just go here. Can I? Okay. Wait, are you friendly?
だから寄せつったんだけどな。まったくしつこくって嫌になるぜ。めんどくせえ。おめえはヨタカの衆か。いいよ。まあそうだな。
いいよ。
風情がちげえ。だがどうやら同業だ。俺は黒笠の無事な。
Black Hat's a badger. Woof this. Stream's really lagging, by the way. Oh no. Oh no, I see it. Oh no, it's buffering. Oh no.
アシナの連中も
My internet bad today.
まったくいい日だね。お主抜け人か。まあそんなところだ。ところでよ。ちょっと
God, hopefully my stream don't crash. Hopefully my stream don't crash. Please don't crash. Purchase item. Wait, what is bite down? Secret shinobi drug, blue in color. When times call in by death by one hand, samurai turn their sword on themselves. As a matter of pride? Resurrection is not limited after news? Wait, what? It's okay? Stream is okay? Yeah, my bitrate is like super low right now. I'm at the red. I see red. Your model is though? My model's lagging though?